Good evening and welcome to our regular meeting of council this Monday, April 15th, 2024. Before getting into the official things, I would like to applaud the Canadian women's hockey team that won 6-5 last evening against the Team USA in overtime. What wonderful thing. I think they were talking about their youth the whole game, and it was our youth that came through in overtime. So congratulations to them. Called to order. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the April 15th, 2024 regular council meeting of Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Please rise for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, we do have one item that's been requested to be pulled from the consent item for discussion, that being item 10A, the departmental quarterly updates first quarter.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of the minutes. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings, including closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, April 2nd, 2024. Public meeting minutes, April 2nd, 2024. Were there any errors or omission noted? All those in favor? Carried. There are no presentations and delegations this evening, so we'll move into action requests. 7A, Charland District High School fee waiver. Ms. Harbers will be coming up. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2024-46 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approves the request from the Charland District High School Band, Clanstock, to waive fees in the amount of $508.50 to cover the cost of the floor rental at the Charland Recreation Center. Ms. Harbers.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So, Charland District High School, their rock band, Clanstock, is asking to have the fees waived for their event that's going to be taking place here at the Charland Recreation Center. The fee would be waived a total of $508.50. So, unless council has any questions, that's, I guess, the gist of it.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, it seems we're glad to support that. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving to item 7B, establish an easement for access to 19629 Fairview Road. Mrs. Haley, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2024-47 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry directs administration to proceed with preparing an easement agreement over the township-owned lands on Fairview Road in favor of the property legally described as part of lots 48 and 49, concession 1, north side of Raisin River, pin 6712107173, in the geographic township of Schlottenburg, now in the township of South Glengarry, addressed as 19629 Fairview Road, which will permit a legal right to traverse the township-owned land, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all applicable documents. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for the property that's located at 19629 Fairview Road, it was recently brought to administration's attention that this property didn't have public road frontage. After some further investigation by both the lawyer representing the owner as well as the lawyer representing the township, it was determined that the peanut line actually is located in between the frontage of the property and the municipal road being Fairview Road. And for that reason, then, it was suggested that we consider establishing an easement to provide legal access to the property owner's property. You'll see that this house was built in 1921. That was based on MPAC's information. So obviously, this isn't something that we've recently created. It's been around for a long time, and it's probably something that's been overlooked. But I also understand that this property hasn't changed hands often, that it's been in this family for many, many years, and that's probably why it was never determined. We also realize as well that prior to the township owning the peanut line, it would have been owned by CP, and there must have been some sort of arrangement or agreement with CP to allow access to this home, again, because it was built in 1921, according to MPAC. So I would imagine that by establishing this easement, we're simply finding a solution to provide legal access, that it's not something that's going to be a big concern because they've been accessing it for a long time. So if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. And if council chooses to approve this resolution this evening, then we will work with the property owner to ensure that they proceed with obtaining the survey. Our lawyer, Mr. Surdek, has requested that we review the survey to ensure that the easement that they're defining is really what they need, and then they would proceed with establishing that easement and registering on title. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. I have a hard time at that point distinguishing where the peanut line is and where the road is. The road, as far as I'm concerned, is on the peanut line. Like, if the peanut line is in that area, it's fairly wide, but it all, like on our maps, it all looks like it's the peanut line. I know there's a line on there that says Fairview Road, but it isn't showing a distinct road. It seems kind of, I'm just hopeful that we're not forcing them to complete a survey and a bunch of things that are not necessary. That's my concern, is that, and maybe it's them that wants to do this. I'm not sure. You could maybe clarify that for me, if it's being pushed by them or if it's us that's saying, well, you're going to have to go get a survey now. And because when you come out the end of their laneway, I know very well you're basically on the road. The peanut line is being used as a trail, but the road portion of it is being used. It's all gravel there. So it doesn't seem like, to me, it doesn't seem like it's worth doing. And then I assume Duncan Whiteman's would be the same next door. And I mean, Fairview Road, if we're calling that, we're driving right through to the Johnson now. Maybe it's not officially open. I'm not sure what we did there, if we ever did officially open it. But my concern is that we're asking somebody to do a survey, and I'm hopeful that we're not just getting them to do it just to make things look good on paper and not going to really change anything.
Mrs. Haley, and I think Mrs. McDonald. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mrs. Haley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll do my best to answer your questions, and I certainly encourage Ms. McDonald to jump in here because we've actually done some of the research that you're speaking to. So when our municipality passed a bylaw opening Fairview Road, I believe it was done in 2017, Ms. McDonald? Okay. So we can pull up that date too, but it was in recent years. And even though a bylaw was passed and the road was defined, a survey was never done. So we don't even have a survey defining what our road is. We believe that the road does not go all the way through. The road stops, I believe it was a few hundred meters, coming off of 17, heading, I'm going to say east. I know the municipal or the area is angled in that location, heading east. So it's not open to the public all the way through. So maybe it's something that we do need to look at to kind of rectify that area. In terms of the abutting property owner owned by Mr. Whiteman, and in speaking with their lawyer, this isn't as much of a concern because he actually has public road frontage on County Road 27. So with that, or excuse me, County Road 19 on the Johnson, I apologize. So with that, that doesn't require us to enter into an agreement, or excuse me, an easement for access, although there potentially could be an agreement for usage because we do know that that space is used. In terms of the of this particular parcel of property, it is my understanding, and the mayor maybe can confirm this because he was contacted first, but it is my understanding that it is the property owner's lawyer who picked up that they didn't have public road frontage, and the property owner's lawyer has asked us to correct this. So with our policies being that we don't incur any costs, that's why it would be the responsibility of the property owner to complete a survey of the easement only. So if you look at my staff report, I just kind of highlight really a yellow area of access. And really that easement only needs to be the width of the driveway. So it's not a big extensive survey. And because the municipality is exempt from the Planning Act, the property owner then doesn't incur any costs for applying for severances. So that's a cost savings there. So their cost would be the survey and then the legal costs to register it. So I hope I've answered all your questions, but again, if Ms. McDonald wants to clarify anything, that would be great.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Fairview Road used to be called Track Road whenever we were the township of Charlottenburg. So it was a road from 300 meters east or northward, whatever direction we're going in. In 2019, we extended the road to accommodate Mr. Whiteman's property. So the track road was extended to the fairgrounds entrance. So the public open road is from 17 just up until the fairgrounds, I'll call their rear entrance, and then everything towards 19 is just an unopened road allowance that looks like a road right now. Hopefully that helps in the history of the road. Thank you.
A follow-up, please? So what distinguishes between what you're calling road and what we're calling peanut line? Both owned by the township. As you're saying, no survey. I mean, it looks like we have just kind of plopped a road on top of the peanut line to do this. So, I mean, we own, at the edge of his property, we own. It doesn't make sense to me that he wouldn't be allowed to come out there and to come onto township property. And it's pretty hard for anybody to know what would be road and what would be peanut line. And if we don't have a survey there, maybe it should be us paying for the survey. If we haven't surveyed the road itself, because how are they going to survey something when they don't know where the road starts? It might be a little tough to do.
In discussions with our lawyer, it was brought to our attention, I believe the clerk's attention as well, that ideally when we pass a bylaw establishing a road or defining a road, we should have a survey that really denotes or defines the boundary. Track road would have existed when the railway tracks were there. So I'm assuming that the description of Fairview Road and now being extended would be a similar width and length as what Track Road was, with the exception of extending it further to the entrance of the fairgrounds. And so if it is what we believe it is, then that peanut line, which is surveyed, by the way, and that then creates private ownership between the subject property and the public road, because even though we own it, that is not opened as a public right-of-way or a public road. But not opened.
Councillor McDonnell.
Just, I guess on that vein, I guess to delineate the difference, I guess the peanut line technically, it had been talked about in the past of potentially in the future, if some council decided to sell it, I guess it does insulate them there. But I do agree, if there's a survey to be done, if they're not surveying their entire property, should it not be the municipality taking on that initiative? I just don't see it being a cost that should be borne by one taxpayer over for the benefit of the municipality at the end. If we are surveying the road, it should kind of cover that off at the end of the day.
Do you have an answer for that? That's a good opinion. We'll go to Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. I had a comment, but now I have a question, just based on something that Ms. Haley said. Just so I'm very clear, what is it exactly that we have surveyed data currently in that general area? Is it just the peanut line strip, but the peanut line and Fairview Road are in that area on top of each other, or they're not? They're two things that are separate?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, they are not on top of one another. They're side by side, and the peanut line is surveyed. The road is not.
Okay, so I feel, just in that area, generally speaking, that we should have a very clear understanding of, what's what. So I think if there is a survey that is required, it sounds like we should have done that in this case. And, I guess that just whole general area, I find, there's a lot of, just to maintain that road, trail, whatever you want to call it, I think we should have better demarcation of what the township owns regardless, to keep that trail, and we'll call it a trail even though people are driving on it, and good repair. But on this discussion of the extension of the peanut line, and like one of the reasons why we didn't do it was we'd have to do like an archaeological study and whatnot, and they estimated it was like $605,000 to do that work to extend the peanut line all the way to County Road 19 back then. But I did notice that the counties put a sign for Fairview Road on County Road 19. So I'm wondering if that perhaps shouldn't be there then, if it's not really opened all the way to County Road 19. Wow.
It's open, we're plowing it.
Well, but then I think we should maybe also like demarcate a bit better in that area, just with all the different uses that are happening. But maybe this is, I don't know if this is something that falls under the peanut line, but again, I'm in general agreement that this landowner should have should not have a very large burden in establishing like proper legal like access in and out of their property. So I think like whatever the easiest solution for them, I think, is what we should work toward.
So I see in the resolution, it's really asking for the easement. So then perhaps if we wish for the property owner not to bear the cost of that survey, I think this is okay. We can just give direction for the township to absorb that, if that's the will of council. Councilor McDonnell.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess just to kind of clarify things for somebody looking from home potentially, if you're looking at it, there is two accesses to the peanut line. There's the peanut line, then there's Fairview Drive. They more or less become one because there's no need to delineate the difference between them. I guess the only problem is Fairview Drive is on the south side of that property, and the peanut line is in the middle. They need an easement essentially across the peanut line. So it's, if whatever it takes to kind of register that, if it does take a survey, then whatever, unless we're surveying the entire road, but I don't see even a need to do a large survey, just survey that access. So I guess kind of where we're coming from, I don't think it'll be a major undertaking for any surveyor. They're going to come out and slap 4 pins in and say this is the easement, and that person now has clear access to road frontage. So if ever there was a day the peanut line was sold, for example, they would have legal access. It's just kind of dotting a T, I guess, at the end of the day. But I do agree there shouldn't be some cumbersome process to this or expensive process to this. So.
Okay, and also, just to avoid future problems, I imagine the easternmost or northeastern from that property would like probably to not just have access to County Road 19, but that might be an issue for another day. Just it's a different topic from this, but I imagine whenever that farm sells, they'd expect to have access across that too. So if we do it, for one, we might want to give some thought to that, because County Road 19 is quite far away from the main entrance there. I know that it's over there, but for this particular one, do you feel like the resolution, because it's really talking about the easement, we can do that and then direct staff, I guess, verbally and through magic of YouTube as a record to keep the burden on that taxpayer low, or absorb the survey ourselves? Yes, kind of to correct, as we're kind of correcting something that's always been there, we'll take that on then. So that's clear enough for staff? Okay. So all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. And thank you. Moving into bylaws, zoning bylaw amendment 8A, the Wash Lancaster Incorporated. Mrs. Haley? Oh, sorry, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-48 be received, and that bylaw 2024-20 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to rezone the property described as part of lot 38, concession 1 being part 1, of Registered Plan 14R2964 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now the Township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, located at 20383 County Road 2, South Lancaster, from highway commercial to highway commercial, exception 11, to permit a laundromat as a use on the subject property, and to permit the proposed laundromat, I don't know, I'm saying that, and car wash to be serviced by 3 parking spaces on the subject property, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 15th day of April, 2024. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as you mentioned, this property is located at 20383 County Road 2, most recently known as the Marigold Market, and prior to that was Old Kirktown. The developer, the property owner, wishes to establish a car wash and to reduce the required parking spaces needed for the car wash, as well as establish a laundromat and also reduce the parking spaces for the laundromat, whereby 3 parking spaces will be provided. You may recall that we had our public meeting at our last meeting on April 2nd, and we had no members of the public come and speak in opposition to the proposed amendment. We did receive a couple of phone calls from abutting property owners inquiring about the proposed car wash, location, traffic, things like that, but did not receive any comments in opposition to it. Individuals just asked to be copied on the decision. You will see in the staff report that we provide examples of how the proposed use conforms to the provincial policy statement as well as the official plan. And you'll notice that we also circulated the United Counties of SD&G because this fronts on County Road 2, as well as the Ministry of Transportation as their abutting agent. And they've included their comments they provided comments to us, which we included in the staff report. And if this is approved, new development will be subject to site plan control. We have commenced the site plan control pre-consultation phase. And if it's approved, then an application can be submitted and we would move forward with that aspect of the development. So you'll see here that staff is recommending it to be approved and that we're making the decision within the prescribed time frame and that we have no concerns with the requested application. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions and comments? I'll comment that I always thought it was laundromat, and now it's laundromat, so I have to say that right. So sorry for struggling on that earlier. All those in favor of the motion as read, carried. 8B, zoning bylaw amendment, Lancaster Masonic Lodge, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-49 be received, and that bylaw 2024-21 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to rezone the subject property legally described as Lot 6, Plan 26, being Part 2 of our registered plan 14R6759 in the geographic village of Lancaster, now the Township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, located at 28 South Terrace, Lancaster, from residential 2 R2 to residential 2, exception 4 R2 4 2. Permit a private club as a use on the subject property, increase the maximum amount of front yard that can be used or constructed as a driveway or parking lot from 50% to 100%, reduce the 1.5 meter setback along a lot line abutting a street road to all parking spaces to 0 meters, reduce the required number of parking spaces for the proposed private club from 17 spaces to 4 spaces, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed this 15th day of April, 2024. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further to that resolution you just read, this proposed amendment pertains to a portion of the property known as 28 South Terrace Street. It was recently subject to a consent whereby a condition of the consent was to rezone this particular portion of the property because of the proposed Masonic Lodge use. There's currently the lodge and residential units located on this property, and so the lodge has been in existence and occupied. I believe it was over 80 plus years. We learned at the public meeting from the applicant, and they will continue to meet on a monthly basis as long as the lodge is in existence. In the staff report, we include the reason for the recommendation in terms of how it conforms to the provincial policy statement as well as the official plan. During the public meeting, we did not have any members of the public attend to speak in opposition, but we did receive a written comment that spoke to parking, how parking occurs on the side street. And we feel that this isn't uncommon. This has been around for a long time. And with how the proposed use is going to be designed and with the additional parking spaces provided in the new development in comparison to what's currently existing, that will help improve the situation. I do realize it depends on how many members attend the meeting though. But we don't have no parking restrictions on those side streets, so it is acceptable for them to park. And with the proposed zoning going to a residential 2 exception 4 zone, in such time, if the lodge doesn't exist, it'll be very easy for this parcel to then be converted to a dwelling that will then conform to the zoning. And that was the reason for recommending it to remain in R2. It would save them from having to do a subsequent process down the road to do the conversion. It would simply just allow them to go right to building permit to convert to a dwelling. And it was a more accommodating way to accommodate the lodge currently and really plan for the future and how it could be redeveloped or fit back in to the zoning in the community. So we're recommending this to be approved, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Are there any questions from around council? All right, all in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving to bylaw 8C, load reduction, North Branch Road and Cemetery Road. Ms. McDonald, resolution reads, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-50 be received and that bylaw 22, being a bylaw to enact reduced load restrictions on certain roads within the township of South Glengarry, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 15th day of April 2024. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, this is exactly what the resolution says. It's just temporary load restrictions on North Branch between Robertson and Canada Road 2 and Cemetery Road for the duration of the summer and fall seasons. We think this is prudent given the Martintown Bridge construction that's going to be going on this summer that the counties are undertaking. Just we're expecting that people won't want to, even though like lanes will be open, we're expecting people will just try to continue to detour around Martintown. And with our upcoming surface treatment program on North Branch, we really don't want to impact either the base that we have or the new surface that we're putting on. So as part of this, we're going to do like a pretty aggressive mail out. Our signage will be big, it'll be bold, we'll probably put on both sides in 4 locations. Just trying to get people's attention and maybe additional signage to direct people to Cornwall and say, you know, Cornwall's not this way, it's that way. Little things, we'll give it our best shot, but it starts with this temporary load reduction. So thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I think it's a good idea. I think I did like the part that you put in that we'll be relying largely on driver compliance, because I think the local people on the road and maybe farm community, like they can't go all season on half loads as far as moving crop and so forth, or fertilizer coming in. They're going to have to be able to have. But my worry is, I think similar to what yours is, that the traffic is trying to avoid the detour. And we found out on our roads tour on Friday that they do not think there will be 1 lane open, but they do not believe trucks will be able to turn coming south. They will not be able to make the turn to go on County Road 18 going west. So if the trucks can't make that turn, that's the place that they're going to try to go, is to go down there and then down Cemetery. So I think we have to try to head that off as best we can. We can't have all the truck traffic going that way, but hopefully there'll be some lenience towards local traffic that does need to move goods on that road.
Fair comment. Any other comments or questions from around council? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving to 8D, road closure, Kinloch Road South, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-51 be received and that bylaw 2024-23 being a bylaw to stop up and close the road named as Kinloch Road, part of PIN 6712600095, located in the Township of South Glengarry, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 15th day of April 2024. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, this was the approach that was provided to council on February 5th, 2024, should the closure of the Lausanne Bridge be approved, well, not approved, but accepted, and it was. So this is a bylaw to stop up and close Kinloch from street to 5 meters north of the bridge, effective Monday, June 17th, 2024, since council had indicated that sometime in that time frame might be good for the locals, and that provides us enough time to, again, do a full mail out, get the word out that section is closing. So by closing, what we mean is at the bridge, we're definitely going to put on both sides full barriers, so no traffic will be able to go over it. At the south end, we've looked at both properties. If they can sneak around, they can definitely get back onto Kinloch, because there is we do have a structure. There are two structures on Kinloch, so the one that is closing and the one south. And the one south on our open road allowance would be the access for the two abutting property owners to get over whatever that creek is called, and access the north side of their properties. So definitely don't want to take away that access, but want to discourage people. Well, we don't want people to end up at the bridge and then have to turn around and come back. So there will be some kind of barriers, but no issue if people want to continue to drive on it to access their land or even get up to the raisin. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that June date for those who are agriculturally inclined work? Okay, great. Any questions? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Bylaw 8E, appointment of deputy clerk. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be resolved that staff report 2024-52 be received, and that bylaw 2024-24, being a bylaw to appoint Doug Robertson as deputy clerk for the Township of South Glengarry, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 15th day of April 2024. Ms. Campo or Mrs. Campo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The purpose of this bylaw is to facilitate procedural efficiencies. It's pretty straightforward, so I don't have anything further to add, subject to any questions of council.
Are there any questions of council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motions read? Carried. We'll now move to the consent agenda. The item pulled was 10A, Department and Quarterly Updates, first quarter. Support resolutions. Yes, sorry. So items for consideration, 9A, Support Resolution, Town of Aurora. So this one was moved by Councillor Jaworski. Can I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Lang. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby supports the resolution passed by the Town of Aurora advocating for an amenity sharing memorandum of understanding with school boards for evening and weekend use, and furthermore, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Premier of Ontario, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Minister of Education, the Association of Ontario Municipalities, and the Town of Aurora. Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, Mayor McDonald, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Lang, for seconding. I mean, again, there's only one taxpayer, and we have these huge assets across the province, and it just makes sense for the communities to be able to use them when they're sitting empty. So, whatever can be done to make this easier, I think benefits residents all across the province. Thank you.
Since you're on the School Board Alliance, may I ask a question? I think it's one that comes up sometimes, is with our libraries in particular, and I know there's sometimes like the general population versus your school-age population are questions. Do you think there's any room to have them in the memorandum of understanding? Because say Williamstown, it has basically 15 hours and 4 days for the library. With the school there, it could be staffed additionally on top of 8 to 3 or whatever the time is. Do you see any, or your thoughts on that? Has that been approached?
So in southwestern Ontario, I believe it's the Township of Zora has a memorandum of understanding with their county library board that they will be embarking on a co-build, I believe it is, with the that's a municipal versus library. But I mean, my understanding is, they're also looking at trying to bring in schools more generally in other areas in the province. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, again, when you just look at it from community hub perspective, how can you have, again, assets that different groups can use traditionally at different times so that it's getting used more, having higher utilization. It's definitely something that gets discussed.
I may ask for that to be at our next library board meeting. All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Nine B, support resolution, Township of Adelaide Metcalf. This one was moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby supports the resolution passed by the Township of Adelaide Metcalf and requests that the province, through the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, consider increasing the maximum annual tile loan limit to a minimum of $100,000, and therefore, or furthermore, that this resolution be circulated to the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and the Township of Adelaide Metcalf. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. We talked a bit about it last meeting, but I'll just, to refresh people's memory or the audience watching, the limit on tile drainage loans by the province has been $50,000 for ever and a day. I don't know the exact date, but it's been many, many, many years. And $50,000 doesn't go that far when you're tiling anymore, so I wanted to support the resolution to bump it up to $100,000 because it only makes sense to, if you're going to do the project, to be able to do the whole project in 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. So now we will get to the consent agenda. 10A, departmental updates or quarterly updates, first quarter. CO Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very in brief, since arriving, I've heard from council members and from staff as well that we don't think that our monthly reports are giving council what they need to support your efforts in governing us and holding us accountable for delivering in terms of the services and programs that we offer. That's been a fairly constant message to me. So the senior management team engaged in a discussion. We talked about various different models and formats that we could use. We landed on the model that you see here in the council agenda tonight. We believe it's more engaging. We believe it has more information that council wants to see and needs to see, but we're presenting it to you tonight in terms of the package, really to get your feedback to see if there's more refinements that we can do for council in the reports to support your role in governing us. And essentially that's the crux of the report.
I believe it was Councillor Jaworski brought it up. So Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through Mayor McDonald. Yeah, no, first off, I want to say that I really think that this is a pretty big, improvement. Not to say that what was there before was bad, but this is even, a big step change improvement to what there was before in terms of the monthly reports. Like it is, I really like that there's a lot more metrics, certainly around areas that didn't have metrics in the previous monthly reports. And, again, for sitting from this seat to get a, general sense of, things that are taking up a lot of time, things that we forget about that, are, part of the day-to-day, but putting numbers around them, I think really helps just get an understanding of the scope of what the township's responsible for, and from this seat, being able to see if there's changes. And I think the way it is now, like even just for general, residents' knowledge in terms about what the township does, looking at one of these, I think is a really interesting snapshot of, all the different elements, that the township is managing. And I do like how at the beginning of every section, there's like, the projects and initiatives. One change, if possible, is that like for every section to like continue to have like up in the corner or something, like if it's still like corporate departments, to have corporate departments, because each section kind of has some pages that, have a similar title. And if you're moving through it, sometimes you forget what section you're in. So something like that. From my position, depending on if other folks are in support, I think metrics around the FOI requests, I think that'd be something I'd like to see added. And then on the financial side, I know we're in a period of flux when it comes to the that department. So I understand that there, it's work in progress in terms of beefing this out, but definitely I would like to see a bit more in terms of sort of, where we are in terms of quarterly, like spending, reconciliation, that sort of thing. But again, like I think from my standpoint, I think it's really positive. So thanks very much to all involved for putting it together.
Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I definitely agree. I think it's more beneficial to see kind of a summary of what's going on in the progress for the major projects in the township and getting away from the day-to-day things. I feel like, council doesn't need to know the mostly day-to-day, but the major projects that we want to get completed, to see the progress and the statistics, I think, are beneficial for us and for the community as well. Like just looking at the fire calls and kind of the breakdown there, I think it's beneficial, and it's nice to see it shown in a nice chart. So I'm a very visual learner, so I appreciate the charts and the graphs. So I think this is the right direction moving forward.
Oh, thank you. And if I may, just on Councillor Jaworski's comment, it might be where it says administrative highlights, because there's I think 2 or 3 that say administrative highlights, and it's just, you're like, okay, where was I again? Because then I went to administration and thought CO, or not CO, like corporate. I know Councillor Jaworski's bailiwick is these reports, and I must say it is easier for me to read in this format. So thank you. The one item that I would like, if possible, this meeting or next, is I saw, I think, 3 mentions of the asset management plan in terms of things we're doing, but I didn't see it as a deliverable. That's a big one for July 1st. So some tracking on that, because that's a decent sized provincial responsibility. And I understand it's interdepartmental. And otherwise, yeah, it's easier for me to read. So thank you kindly for that. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Oh, yes, one last thing too. I forgot about that. It's nice to see, and we have to, as council, create a social, like our psychological or social safe place to have this. As the unfinished business is kind of back on there, so we have to make sure that as we go through it, we ask questions and we'll come back to it. But I think council as a whole likes the idea of seeing things that were asked for that have not been, and then we may at times, I think once every 3 months is okay to ask versus 6 times a quarter. So I think this is kind of the right amount of holding accountable on those unfinished businesses. So I like that quarterly aspect of that too. And I hope, maybe I'm speaking not for council, that's maybe my side, balancing administration and legislative requirements, but I like to see those again. And they are there, just right here. I can see like traffic calming policy, for example. All right, now I'm rambling. So any other comments? Okay. So consent agenda, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. So now we will be moving into closed session. We will rise and reconvene at a later moment, but we'll be gone for some time. One never knows. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that the council convene to closed session at 7:43 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act SO 2001. 2. A meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is B. Personal information about an identifiable individual, specifically staffing matters, and K. Negotiations, specifically ongoing negotiations. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. So we'll be back online later. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back. We're coming out of closed session, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the council rise and convene at 9:47 PM into open session without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Now we'll go to our confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be resolved that bylaw 2024-25, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 15th day of April 2024. All those in favor? Carried. And adjournment, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 9:48 PM. All those in favor? Carried. Have a good evening, everyone.